Hey, tech enthusiasts. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 7 of TechBus. Today we have special guest Eric Burns. He's founder and CEO of Gazella. It's an automated marketing tool. We'll kind of dive more into that. My name is Tomas. I'm the director of talent strategies at Linkstream.
I'm Thomas. I'm the founder of Linkstream. Linkstream is a IT consulting custom development shop, and we're offering a new service called the Developer Cloud.
Awesome. So, Eric, first and foremost, just want to thank you for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, so really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
First and foremost, why don't you kind of let us know in our audience a little bit more about marketing automation and how kind of Gazella got started? Is it Gazella?
Yeah, Gazella. So Gazella Wi-Fi, so we turn guest Wi-Fi into an automated marketing tool. We primarily do this in restaurants, and so if you kind of look at the old way of collecting customer data, if you go to like a restaurant now, you see like there'll be like a fishbowl out on the bar, and people will be dropping their business cards in to win a free sandwich or whatever it is. And so I actually had a restaurant a few years ago, and we were doing that same type of thing. We were having customers come in, drop their business card, and we found that the customers that were willing to give us their contact information were coming back more often. They were spending more time at our restaurant, spending more money. And so we decided, all right, we're going to take that up a notch. And we said, all right, we're going to have to start like a birthday club, and we're going to do a more like raffle stuff. So fill out this form to win concert tickets. Mm-hmm. And so again, great. People were willing to give us their contact information. They're coming back more often. But what we found out was a lot of people were, we could never read their handwriting. There's a lot of data entry. Half the time someone would write, first name Ben, last name Dover, or, something completely like inappropriate that, we didn't need to have.
Couldn't enter that into statistics.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad data.
And, but, they were still coming back more often. It was well worth it. But kind of at the same time I was working at the restaurant, there was, I'll never forget, there was a gentleman that came in and he said, hey, they'd always ask, what's the Wi-Fi password? And there's one night, it was late at night, and he said, what's the Wi-Fi password? And I was just being honoring, and I was like, well, what's in it for me? And the guy was like, well, I'll buy a sandwich. And so that was kind of when we realized that, we didn't have to be like the hotels and the airports that charge $12 an hour to access the Wi-Fi, but we didn't have to give it away for free either. And so we started collecting email addresses or Facebook login to access the Wi-Fi.
That's awesome.
A couple months later, I ended up exiting my position at the restaurant. We sold it off and started Gazella full-time.
Awesome. And so can you kind of go into some of the statistics that I saw on marketing automation was the repetitive tasks, better targeting. Can you talk about some of the technology that actually goes into what you guys do as far as how you target clients, get them to return and understand them better?
Yeah, so a lot of times when you kind of look at like a restaurant buying decisions in particular, so we call it what I often refer to as the consideration set. So if we decided we wanted to go out to lunch right now, we'd all kind of sit there like, all right, we got a Subway down the street, we got that Hy-Vee takeout. We're just going to rattle off the first 5 things that come to our mind. We didn't take into consideration price. We wouldn't take into consideration, parking, nothing like that. We just think of the first 5 things that come to our mind. And so that's a lot of times what I'll tell a lot of our clients that, no one's ever going to receive that, text message marketing or the email marketing and say, oh, wow, buy one, get one free down at the restaurant down the street. Like, let's go there, hurry up. And but what is going to happen is that if maybe I got that message that morning or, it's now up higher on that consideration set. So when I do go to make that restaurant buying decision, hopefully maybe that's one of those first that kind of rattle off. And so our goal is really that automation is so kind of I mentioned the data entry. So we take away that entire data entry piece. So it's their data is automatically put into our system. And then we have all sorts of triggers that can be automated. So, whether it's their first time coming in, maybe they're getting a message, just saying, hey, thanks for stopping by. Maybe on their 10th time coming in, it's a different message. We leave that up to the restaurant owners. We just say, hey, make sure you're connecting with the customers.
So what inputs do they have to give you? Phone number, email address, name? Is that it?
So it depends. So if they go through the Facebook login, it's with Facebook OAuth. So you're probably familiar with if you ever played Candy Crush and it says, hey, we're going to take your basic profile information. Yeah. And so Facebook's pretty stingy when it comes to they're not going to just give any data that you want. We're kind of working on getting some more, but the basic profile as it sits, we'll get their full name, their email address, age, gender, and a couple other things like their friends list and that kind of stuff. So so from there, it gives us quite a bit of information, because the advertisements that you would send me as a 28-year-old male are completely different than something you may send a 58-year-old female. And so those restaurants then are able to then target their communication to those customers quite a bit better.
So the login's always through Facebook, or that's just one of the options?
Yep. So all our restaurant owners can toggle on and off like which data they want to collect. So whether it be the options are either Facebook, email, or some of the restaurants are starting to move to that text message marketing. So they have the option to collect the phone number as well.
Okay. So when you come in with your phone or your laptop and then you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, you're required to put that in first before you connect. That's the premise. Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
Awesome. So what I saw as far as some of the value that automated marketing has to the business at large companies across the United States is they claim it's like a 32% revenue increase using automated marketing. Is that something that you see in your trends, that type of value in these restaurants that you're working with?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm sure. I don't know where they pulled the 32, but I definitely believe it, not only from a just consistency standpoint. I think the more you can be consistent, the more business you're going to generate, but then also from a kind of an expense standpoint as well. So like one thing when I had my restaurant, I was always trying to come up with new content. Like it just seemed like it was never ending. Having new menu items, new new specials for the sports game, or whatever we wanted to do really. But with the kind of the automated pieces, so we can set up basically kind of a cadence. So if you come in for the first time, you're going to receive X message, and then on your fifth time, you're going to receive that next message. So that happens for every single customer the first time they come in. We don't have to keep coming up with that content. So we can create 10 pieces of content, reuse those essentially forever, because we don't have to keep coming up, reinventing the wheel each time we need a new piece of content, because this will be the first time that customer is going to see it.
Cool. So is your tool almost become a CRM firm at that point, where they can do like drip campaigns and other sorts of campaigns out of that, or is it funnel that into another CRM? Yeah.
So one of the things that we've really it's been tough decisions we've had to make, but things like MailChimp and Constant Contact, like they're the best in the world when it comes to email delivery. So we kind of said, let's let them do the email delivery pieces. So we've built in kind of widgets, I guess if you want to call that, plugins, so that way they can connect their Constant Contact or their MailChimp accounts right from our APIs, and drop that data right in there, so they can continue using their Constant Contact, MailChimp, like if they are. Our systems are still set up that they can pull their data and export it and kind of create a customer profile from it. However, if we're talking kind of email delivery, text message marketing, that kind of stuff, we let the experts do that. But while we kind of say we're the experts in collecting that data.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I read that you guys have clients from California to New York, Singapore.
Yeah.
Is Nebraska, I see some of your clients Voodoo Taco, is Nebraska getting on board with this new wave of automated marketing, or do you find in this market it's tougher to get them on board with that?
Yeah, we have about 20 locations here in Omaha. It's between 20 and 40. I don't know, the numbers kind of get away from me, but here in Omaha, so it's pretty a lot of pretty cool data that we're pulling from here in Nebraska. So I guess we have the session room downtown, which is probably one of my favorite hangout spots. So that's always kind of a bonus. But Buffalo Wings and Rings out there on Center Street has our stuff. We got quite a few. Star Deli.
So do they have to get a certain router and you provide the hardware and stuff, or does it kind of work with any sort of router?
Yeah, so we built our system so that way we can ship it. So we have our router and we'll ship it right to them and they plug it into their existing system. And so the reason for that is actually creates a brand new Wi-Fi hotspot for them. So it's not going to touch their existing systems that maybe they're running their point of sale system or their jukebox, that sort of thing. And then also alleviates us for having to have an on-site technician. We can actually just send it out to them, and we actually have our newest employee, Evan, that's going to be kind of running the account management on those. So to be able to just work with them right over the phone, we can
So they just-
remotely update everything.
It just
from
plugs
Omaha.
in and
Yep.
connects to their. They have like an online portal, I imagine, where they can manage some things. Or
Yep, exactly.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
He's actually was telling me while you were in the other room that they're in our spot at the AIM Institute. So they're in our old
Oh,
office.
yeah.
It looks like you guys have grown up quite a bit.
Well, we were here too. We had an office down there for a
Okay.
short while. One of our sales reps was trying to get involved in some stuff down there, but we just weren't using it enough. So we're probably going to continue with a co-working space. So,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
How do you feel that has that community contributed to your growth, or how do you feel about that experience of being at that location?
Yeah, so I guess I'm a big believer in that you're kind of the average of your 5 closest, people that you're with. So by being able to kind of surround yourself with other people that are working on pretty cool projects, I think it's helped our team grow quite a bit. And then I think just everyone's there is more than willing to help out. So I know we've got a couple leads, and whenever you have a problem, sometimes it's everyone's more than willing to listen to it and try to put in their 2 cents to solve some of those, whether it be tech related or business related. So,
I have a question from the kind of the sales side. When you're going to talk to restaurant owners, or I assume this has more application than just restaurants, but maybe that's where you're starting. Do you find there's a lot of barrier to educate them on how they can leverage technology to grow their business, or is that kind of just an accepted space in the restaurant industry where they know Facebook and social media is a huge part of it, and this is just pretty plug and play, or do you find that there's a lot of education?
Yeah, so there are so you're right. We're starting with restaurants, and that's primarily because both me and my partner had restaurants. We know that space pretty well. Also, a restaurant is they're all very, very similar. It's the same size. It's quite a bit different process of putting Wi-Fi in a restaurant than it is to put it in an entire mall. So we've kind of stuck with that niche. And then, but to answer your question about do some of these restaurant owners get it? There's quite a few different types of restaurant owners, I guess, if we want to call them this. There's some that are very, very tech savvy, and then there's some that we actually had one that she didn't even have an email. So it was she knew how to make a great coffee and a great cafe, but did not have an email. So not the best fit. So what we found is that people that are currently subscribed to a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, they already very much value customer data. They understand that if they're not collecting data on their customers, they're not going to be around much longer. And so if the restaurants that are already valuing customer data and we bring in this tool that allows them to collect more data, they're usually very well to adapt to our conversations.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's also about the strategy, right? The implementation. It's got to be a multi-platform approach. I imagine can't just think you're going to plug this in and it's going to do all the work, the heavy lifting for you, right? That's about.
But what about the other person who sees the value in it, but they don't have something like Constant Contact or some of these other tools? Do you help educate them and guide them and okay, this is how you make a full implementation?
Yeah, and so we'll always provide recommendations as far as what types of messages to send. A lot of folks, you see it, you get constant emails that are saying hey, buy one get one free, or coupons, and really you don't need to do that in kind of our opinion. That again is back to that consideration set, that sort of thing. So we'll definitely guide them. I would say from an ease of, there's 600,000 restaurants in the U.S., 15 million in the world. For us to go after the ones that already have those kind of constant contacts, MailChimps in place. It makes our job so much easier. So there's plenty of those to go around.
So you're targeting the ones that are already kind of tech savvy.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
How do you find that data?
I've been trying a handful of different ways. I'd say probably our most effective is I have, kind of a list, like Sales Genie, another Omaha company here. We subscribe to them, and then I have another gentleman that we outsource to, and he'll actually go to those restaurants' websites, check to see, okay, do they have a birthday club that they can sign up or whatnot, and then if they, are a good fit, then we try to set up a meeting.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
This might be a good time to take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some more automated marketing with Eric Burns.
All right,
Perfect.
thanks.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back, guys. Here for our second segment with Eric Burns from Gazella. And one of the things I want to talk about was just entrepreneurship in general. We talked a little bit about, customers and technology. What's been your experience trying to get into a business that is technically related? I get that that's not your background necessarily, but what were some of the challenges and things that were involved with that?
Yeah, so we've had, it definitely hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows for us. We kind of had what I often refer to as our Tesla moment. So if you're familiar with Tesla, they were like, we're going to take the existing chassis and we're going to put our new stuff on it. It's going to work great and be right out into the market. And so that was kind of our thought process, because that captive portal is being done at hotels and airports all around the world, not really that new. So we thought we were going to take our existing stuff or our new stuff and put on the existing captive portal technology. It would work great. And it turns out none of the APIs talked well together. And so we ended up having to kind of build from scratch our own firmware and all that fun stuff. So it was, kind of a wild ride, but and then kind of even into the point where we were, courting investors and that sort of thing, and kind of having to explain that, what have we been doing the last few months, and kind of rebuilding the whole product.
How long did that process start from infancy to today?
Yeah, so we started last November, so this is probably like our 1-year anniversary this month here.
Congratulations.
And then, thank you. And it was a really slow start. And then in June was kind of our first, we got our first clients. We actually had a product to sell. That kind of November to June was actually building the product and kind of getting everything in line. And then June we were kind of full force. And
I think we met at Infotech or something like that.
I think
maybe you were just starting out at that point. Or
yeah, so Infotech is what, in...
I don't know. It's in the spring, I think.
Yeah, it was a few months ago. But I think it's, probably June, I think, actually.
How did you navigate that without you guys not having a technical background necessarily, knowing how to find the right people and make decisions that could be critical to the business? Yeah,
so my partner DJ does have a technical background, and so. But that being said, DJ is a phenomenal software programmer. Navigating some of the firmware and hardware pieces that kind of came with our plug and play system was a bit unique. Like he had definitely played around with it and was familiar, but maybe not at a world class hardware firmware level. So we actually kind of went to through a handful of different forums, handful of different there's plenty of sites like Upwork and Guru that we found a couple experts when it comes to firmware and hardware. Marco and Max, a gentleman from Brazil, and then Marco's from Brazil, Max is from Vietnam, and so kind of leveraging some of those exchange rates has been a huge benefit for us. But they've actually been with us almost since day one as well, and they're still with us, working out some of the kinks and making our stuff as good as it possibly can.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you think has been, as you started out on this journey, kind of usually people think they have a certain path and then it ends up kind of going all different directions. What was like some of the bigger surprises and challenges just starting a business? I guess I'm assuming you guys
Yeah.
kind of started from the ground up and raised some investment or not. I'm not sure, but I don't know, just talking through some of that.
Yeah, so we raised a little bit of investment here this last summer. So it was kind of exciting. We bootstrapped for most of the time, and so we had a lot of investors that were kind of coming to us and saying, hey, we'd like to invest, and at that point, we hardly had any customers, nothing, and so I kept kind of saying no, we're not seeking investment right now, and it's really hard when you have someone that comes in and says, hey, are you looking to raise 500 or a mil? And so like when you're saying, actually, like I don't want to raise any money right now, like that's really hard.
Right.
That's a pretty good sign though. If there's like investment opportunities like that, and you don't even have any customers. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you guys have a good idea. That's probably why.
Yeah, thank you. And then, so we were going through Straight Shot at the time, so it was kind of this running joke around Straight Shot that we had opened up our round on a Monday and we closed it on a Tuesday, which wasn't the case at all. We had spent months, meeting with investors, that kind of thing. But when it came time to actually saying, hey, let's go ahead and get this started, it actually went fairly quick for us. So I was very, very pleased. But yeah, a lot of the folks around the Straight Shot
What are your
had a couple
What are your
jokes.
thoughts on taking venture capital, like as far as autonomy to run the business how you want versus needing the cash? Do you have any opinions about that? Or I know there's kind of a wide spectrum of people that have different thoughts on that, but I guess where do you fall in that?
Yeah, we lucked out for the most part pretty good. I knock on wood because I guess it's still pretty early. But so we took some money from Landscape Capital and then Right Side Ventures out of so it's a New York firm and a Silicon Valley firm, and they've been really hands off.
Okay.
So which has been great. But then again, we're only in like month 2 or 3 of taking that cash from them. So I'm sure. Come next year, and if we're not producing, then I'm sure they'll be pounding on some doors. So, but yes, I think we, being a software as a service, we know kind of our cost of acquisition, that sort of thing. So it made sense to bring on that money. We gave us a small portion of it, but I think it's going to help us grow quite a bit faster.
For entrepreneurs like yourself, do you have any guidance as far as investors and taking investments, finding investors, stuff like that?
Yeah, what would be your advice to someone who was in your shoes a year ago? Like,
So, don't take money from your parents. Back when I had the restaurant, we had one summer that we did a bank loan for the restaurant, so it was quite a bit different. But we had air conditioning go out, bad month, and so I needed a little runway capital, and so yeah, they'll hold that over your head. Like they'll never say it. They'll never say it. But any family function turns into a board meeting. You'll be over there for Easter, and they'll be like, "How's the business going? Like, gonna give me back those couple grand I gave you."
That's funny.
So
what kind of restaurant did you have? I'm just curious.
it was a sports bar out in Plattsmouth, about 20 minutes south here of Omaha. A couple
Okay.
sand volleyball courts and that kind of thing. So
Is that still around, or did you get out of that?
I sold it, and I don't know. I don't think she's still having it run. I don't know what happened, but
Okay.
I'm not going to ask questions.
Do you feel like that was a tougher business than it was starting this up and getting the capital and making it all work? Yeah.
I wouldn't say I would. So all said and done with the restaurant, we probably broke even after the sale and everything. That actually kind of a funny story. So I went to sell the restaurant, and we had two. Is a gal and a gentleman. The gal had a little bit more of the business side. The gentleman was a chef, and they came together to be a partner, and they both were going to pitch in. And long story short, the gal met this gentleman on Craigslist.
So it's a
and-
great place to start a business.
Yeah, so the gentleman would kept saying like, hey, I bought some of this new kitchen equipment, or I put the deposit down on the power, and then so they would meet up in a parking lot. She would hand over some cash to the gentleman for the half of whatever it was, and then kept stringing along, and then so eventually came to find out this gentleman just disappeared out of thin air, and she lost quite a bit of cash, but I ended up still selling it to her anyway, and so she's kind of been making payments on it. But it was it's definitely selling the business was almost just as tough as it was running the business.
That's
So.
surprising, given Craigslist's wonderful reputation of providing the most upstanding individuals in the business.
Whenever I want to, do something critical in life, that's where I go first.
That's where we hire all of our developers. And stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of like great content and stuff on Craigslist. I mean, as far as like they get so many viewers, but yeah, probably not the best place to go hiring and finding business partners.
Yeah. I wouldn't suggest
Don't put
it.
your phone number on there, because I tried to sell a car on there one time, and I got so many spam calls. I think they have like bots just scraping all the
man,
screens and grabbing phone numbers off every post on there and then putting them in spam lists. But
Automated marketing.
yeah,
For sure.
is there? Well, that's a good segue into automated marketing. Is there any plans? I know right now, I think you made the right decision by saying, "Hey, let Mailchimp, let these other services do what they do best." Do you guys ever want to have some sort of more the tool that the restaurant owners can be that's more tailored towards the restaurant industry, maybe for mass marketing through email, text?
Yeah. So on our next release is what we call our triggers, basically. And so it's actually pretty darn cool. So let's pretend, I know people are probably listening, can't really see, but so let's say this is our router over here, and this is my phone. And so the router is basically making these pings out, and it's saying, "Hey, is anyone out there? Is anyone out there?" And so that's when you go to access your Wi-Fi, there's these 7 networks are within range. And so there's a very small packet of information that is transferred back to that router, which includes a MAC address and a timestamp. And so that MAC address, whether it's an iPhone, Android, whatever, it's basically just a unique ID for a phone. So I can't tell you that Tomas has been to the restaurant, but I can tell you that his phone has, which is basically the same thing because you're not taking his phone to the restaurant. So So with those triggers for that automated piece, so now without you even logging on to the internet, I can tell that your phone's been there. But now that once you sign into the internet, at any one of our locations, we can then track and say, okay, you've been to that restaurant 10 times.
Even if it's a different restaurant?
Even if it's a different restaurant. And so because as long as they have to sign our terms of service that says, hey, we can send you're joining our list. So we wouldn't, the individual restaurants can't necessarily, so if you signed in at Session Room, you wouldn't be able to, when you went to Buffalo Wings and Rings couldn't send you an automated marketing message. However, based on our systems, we'd be able to see, okay, this kind of a customer profile of where they've been.
Oh, okay.
So you can provide that data to the other guy.
Yeah, we don't provide that. It's more of a, so it's you get into privacy laws, that kind of stuff. So we don't track people to their homes or people, really anywhere. We just say whether or not this person has been in that restaurant. And so from a back end standpoint, yeah, if we mesh together the data, but really the Session Room doesn't care if you've gone to the Buffalo Wings and Rings or not. So it's just more of a way for us to keep that data tracked. And so when you do sign that terms of service, we can say, okay, kind of backtrack that data.
You can backfill what they had done at that point once they agreed to use it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Maybe another aspect would be tying it into their website where you had some kind of token, because obviously from the browser you could get the MAC address from the same phone. Maybe you guys already talked about this.
Actually, a couple of our restaurants have started doing that. So we have the ability to redirect. So after they log in, we can redirect them to whatever page they want, whether it be a Facebook, an Instagram, wherever they want to send them to, web page. And so the folks that are starting to send them to their web page, and then they have those tracking cookies on there. So now they can send the retargeting messages to those customers that have been there, through the Google Ad Network or wherever they want to do. So,
what's your? This stuff's all awesome for the restaurant owners, but do you guys have messaging and sort of company positioning on how to present it to the customers in a way where, because some people don't care that they're being tracked, but someone might think like, oh man, this is a lot of information. Like how do you dance that line carefully.
Yeah, so they can opt out at any time, it's kind of funny. We had this last summer, or I guess it wasn't in summer, it was last fall maybe. We had a group of MBA students that were doing a project on Gazella, and so they said, hey, we want to do a survey. And so I used to work at Gallup, so I did a lot of surveys, and I kind of said, I don't know if that's going to be the best use of our time, really. But they went ahead and did the survey. They surveyed like 3,000 people and asked them the question, would you log in through Facebook or email, given that they would have your contact information. And of those 3,000, like 95% said no way, absolutely, they would never log in through Facebook or an email. And so, which if you ask the same question, would you pay $12 an hour to access the airport's Wi-Fi? I guarantee it would be the same thing. 95% of people would say no, but you get to the airport and your credit card's out faster than before the plane arrives. So, and we have some restaurants. We have a coffee shop that they're on pace to hit about 40,000 logins just this year. So, I would say that sample size of 3,000. That question might have been worded wrong. So.
Do you have big competitors out there? I mean, imagine there's other people doing this. It is, and I think it's good that you guys have niched down on the restaurant industry and stuff. And you guys know your customer very well, and it sounds like you know how to target that stuff. But is there other big competitors out there doing this?
Oh yeah, we have two fairly larger competitors that probably have quite a bit more funding than we do and that sort of thing. So we definitely we kind of follow that philosophy of do more with less. Being from Omaha, our cost of living is nothing what it is on the Silicon Valley or California areas. So I think that definitely helps us out quite a bit, and it also gives us a kind of unique. We have a fairly large footprint, here in the Midwest as far as locations, and so I'm sure they have, nice footprints, other places as well, but kind of gives us that unique advantage.
This is a question for both you guys. Did you, onto your point, did you either one of you see that article on LinkedIn that they said like in 2020 there'll be more startups in the Midwest than there will be in Silicon Valley?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh, no.
Because of this trend, because of Chicago is one of the big hubs, and a lot. Well, we know we actually have a developer that went to the West Coast, so we know that we have the talent here. Like you said, the cost of living, nurturing a lot of hubs that are helping these entrepreneurs.
I think you get more exposure. I mean, if you're going to go start a company like this in Silicon Valley, you're a little fish in a huge pond. But you do something like that out here, it's easier to get exposure and the cost of living thing that you mentioned, and I think those are some of the driving factors.
So there's a handful of venture capitalists that are out there right now just seeking out Midwest companies because of that. And I think if you look on the West Coast, those valuations, like a company, just in our same boat, same amount of revenue, same type of thing, just because they're located in the West Coast, their valuations are going to be 17 times what ours are. And I think that's gave us a huge advantage to be able to say, hey, when we had those first conversations, and one of the West Coast investors that we worked with, he made a comment. He was like, I thought you guys would have wanted. It was like 5 times more than what we had initially set our first valuation at, and so he's like, yeah, we can continue this conversation.
Did you feel maybe I should have started there?
Exactly. There was during that time, I talked to a lot of people, a lot of investors. That first couple calls was like, wow, that was super easy. Like, so the next one I bumped up my valuation, and the next one I bumped it up my valuation again. And it turns out venture capital was a lot smaller than you think, because they were like, well, you just quoted Billy at less than that. So
they talked to each other.
They talked, and it turns out they were actually pretty good friends. So learned my lesson.
Yeah. So you mentioned your partner. You have a partner. How many founders are there then?
So DJ and I, so we're the sole partners. Yeah. So
Just two of you?
Yeah. So we actually met at the First National Bank Hackathon that they do here in Omaha about 3 years ago.
Okay.
He owned a restaurant at the time, so we got along pretty well. And actually, his is more of a nightclub, but we got along pretty well, and just kind of stayed in touch. And then we both happened to exit our positions at the restaurants about the same time, and decided to start working on this project together.
So is your focus primarily on sales, business development, marketing, and then
Yeah.
he heads up the technical side?
Yeah, I think I was saying earlier that I know enough technology to be dangerous. I know quite a bit. I can flash routers. I can know a tad bit of Linux, tad bit of PHP, just enough to be dangerous. And so I'll run some of like the front end of the websites, or kind of make updates. And the other day I got the white screen of death. And so DJ, my partner, he revoked my access, so I can't I can't make updates to that. But
He took away your Twitter account.
no, I still have access to the Twitter account, but the database is no longer accessible.
No. I think that it's usually a good mix to have, one person that's more business side and that sort of thing in sales, and then a technical founder. If you try and do both, it's tough. So
Yeah, it's tough just doing one.
yeah. Cool. So what's where do you guys want to be in 5 years? I mean, do you have projections out like that, or are you just kind of living in the moment?
Yeah, no, it's actually really. So this last week I was talking to a guy named John Lund. That he'd be a great guy to have in your show. He called himself old, so I can call him old. But he sold a company that Offwire, who basically provided cell phone accessories all over the place, and they had 80 employees here in Omaha. They're doing like 50 million in revenue. But anyway, so he gave me an analogy that really, really set with me. And so he's talking about strategy, and so coming up with that, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And he said, it's a lot of, like in business, it's like you have, it's like you put a soccer ball out on a field and have this kid, say, hey, go score for me. Like if it's, your son, like, go score for me, go score for your dad. And the kids, like, but there's no nets. And the kid will, try so hard to score, but if there's no nets, like, he's just going to eventually start crying, and, there's no way that he could score, kind of thing. So John tells that story way better than I do. But yeah, it kind of made me think, like, all right, I need to figure out the strategy of, where my strategy right now is just more. Like, I just want more. Want to get bigger. I want to hire more employees. Want to get more locations, and never really set that set goal except for more. And so that's on my to-do list here this week, to try to figure out what is my 5-year plan.
Yeah. Okay.
This kind of sounds like we're dating. Like, what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah. So that's just something, as a business owner, you think about, where do you want to be? Depends what you want, if it's a lifestyle business or you want to exit at some point, and that sort of thing. So
yeah, definitely want to exit, but how we're gonna get there,
yeah,
I'm gonna find out.
So I guess we kind of wrap up here. If there's before we end, if there's anything you want to share, like how can people get a hold of you, find out more about your company, any of that stuff, feel free to share.
Where they can contact you for investment capital once you become a millionaire.
So yeah, I mean, we're always looking. If we're obviously very excited about the whole, Gazella product, and so. But if you have any restaurants or, that you know of, or even just a restaurant you like to eat at that you want to see some Wi-Fi at, we definitely love to hear from them. So. You can always email myself at eric@gazellewifi.com, or just go to our website. There's plenty of ways that you can get in contact with us.
And that's gazellewifi.com.
Correct. Yep.
Cool. Well, all right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll include some of those contact information in the show notes. And thanks again, Eric.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, appreciate
Bye,
it.
guys.
Audio Jungle.